Hello, my name is Dr. Ronald Siegel. I'm an assistant professor of psychology at Harvard Medical School, where I've taught for some 35 years. During that same period, I've been privileged to be part of a group of us who have been looking at how mindfulness and compassion practices can inform psychotherapy and clinical work more generally, and how what we know from clinical work more generally, as well as from the scientific study of the brain and psychopathology, how those findings might be able to inform the wisdom traditions that gave us mindfulness and compassion practices originally. This has been very exciting work. Over the last several years, the number of peer-reviewed studies on mindfulness and compassion practices has exploded. There have been some 800 studies every year for the last several years. And what do these studies find? They find that these practices both enrich our lives professionally and personally. I can attest to the personal part. When I do more of these practices, I'm a little bit saner. I actually show up more for my psychotherapy sessions. I'm able to tolerate affect more readily. I'm able to be more wholeheartedly present. And when I practice less, I'm decidedly less sane. I'm more worried about how I'm doing as a clinician. I'm more preoccupied with my to-do list, more stuck with obsessions and the like. So I can attest to their personal value. Clinically, we now have hundreds and hundreds of studies showing that mindfulness and compassion practices are helpful for working with anxiety, for depression, for chronic pain, for a whole host of difficulties, even for the indignities of aging and difficulties in interpersonal relationships. Well, how could a few practices like this be so useful for such a wide range of difficulties? Well, it turns out that all of the different difficulties, all the different psychological problems that afflict human beings have some common elements. These elements include experiential avoidance, the way in which we try to get away from painful experience and push it out of our awareness. They include being stuck in our thoughts, believing in negative or maladaptive or not helpful thoughts. They include being very self-involved, being concerned with what's happening to me, how am I going to do, and how will I feel. And it turns out that mindfulness and compassion practices can help to soften all of these processes, to make it more possible to be with experience, both pleasant and unpleasant experiences that arise and passes, to develop metacognitive awareness, to be able to see thoughts as thoughts rather than believe in them so much and get stuck in them so passionately. And finally, these practices can help us to be somewhat less self-focused, somewhat less worried on how I'm doing, what do people think about me, how do I compare to others, and all the self-esteem preoccupations that create so much difficulty. So if you're interested in learning more about mindfulness and compassion practices and how they can enrich and inform our psychotherapy practices, I very much encourage you to come to the workshop. I'd love to see you there.